because I was like 15 or something at the time when that was happening. So as I got a little bit older and more mature and stopped being such a little brat, then we became friends.
I used to we'd do radio interviews when I worked in Alaska. So they would call all the time. And so I'd have to give the weather spiel to the radio.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And then, they'd play it back or something. Then you'd hear it on the national radio deal. So and I'd be like, whoa, that's really weird. That's like what it sounds like. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's something people think about a lot too. It's like, I can't stand the sound of my own voice. And I think it's interesting how I wonder how you are with this, Jason.
Yeah. Do you sound even like the way you talk?
I hate hearing my voice.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't sound.
It's really hard to even listen to this podcast.
Oh, that's interesting. Because I figure I would have wondered if just doing music for so long that you would have just gotten used to it. Because that's for me, doing podcasts for 10 years or whatever. I've gotten I don't think about my voice at all. It's just editing,
But the difference is mostly I'm shooting out live, and never looking back.
Oh,
you're always looking back.
Yeah,
because you're editing.
Yeah.
So you're hearing.
You're used to it, and you're editing your own work.
That's really.
Where I'm like, you make it good. I don't want to do that. I'll do it with someone else, and I really hate.
I suppose somebody else is doing all the Woodblind albums. Or
well, actually, me and Teague are kind of, and Vaco, we're kind of doing like the edits of all the recordings, but then Dave Mailing's mixing.
Oh, so
and that's being mastered.
Yes, you don't have to listen to it for too long.
Well, quite a bit, but I'm not singing or talking. Teague is on those.
Right. Okay. Well, that helps too.
And if I'm singing, it's different than talking. So it's only the talking I can't stand.
And then the singing does
the singing is different.
It's fine. You're
singing
like,
or whistling, no problem.
Like
because it's like what I do, it sounds the way I want it to sound. But when I talk, I'm like, why is that my voice?
Yeah.
I was just like,
what happened?
Yeah, why do you talk like that? What is wrong with you?
It's kind of like European singers. They sound American.
Oh, yeah.
But then they start talking, and it's just like, wait, you can't even speak English.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't mean to keep talking about my own stuff, but we did an episode of another show where we talked about Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh, right.
And that song they're Swedish punk singers or something, or folk or something. They're
really?
Pop singers, yeah. And
the original Cotton Eye Joe.
Well, no. So the original one is a slave ballad.
Right. Oh, it is. Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Cotton Eye. Right.
Yeah, which that was an interesting little discovery.
Yeah.
You're like, I thought this was just a funky song from the 90s. Nope. It goes way back.
Oh,
and then somehow these Swedes discovered it, and they're like, this slaps. And they and then that's one of those ones too where it's like, before you know that they're all Swedish, you're like, you might think they're just rednecks, which is the band name, by the way.
Rednecks, right.
The redneck.
But then you look at them knowing they're all Scandinavians, and you go, oh yeah, no duh, because they're like all like long blonde hair and pale skin, and you're like, oh yeah. You've been up in the north for a long time.
Your lack of suntan.
Yeah. It's deep in your DNA. Yeah. But anyway, that's the show called Super Serious. This is the Wussow's podcast, where we talk about the cafe and all the people who influence it. I'm one of your hosts, Terry, along with
Mr. Whistler.
Mr. Whistler. Wow.
Just kidding. That's my old nickname, Whistler.
I could see the Whistler part.
It makes sense.
But Mr. Whistler sounds better.
Mr. Whistler.
No, I'm Jason.
You could embrace Mr. Whistler from now on, though.
It used to be Whistling Pip. Because I wear those little, ska hats and then Pip from South Park. So then I was always whistling, and then I was Whistling Pip.
It's fantastic. It sounds like an insult a little bit.
It was.
Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah.
But you just go with it.
No, it wasn't. It was.
No, it's fun.
And our guest, you're Ron. I don't.
Williams.
Ron Williams. I gotta say, I don't even know your last name. I didn't. Now I should.
I didn't either, but then I did. I
didn't. I knew we were going to be talking to you eventually. I didn't actually know it was going to be today.
Okay.
Great. So but I know Jason's told me a bit about what's going on. I am interested to hear, because it sounds like you've had quite kind of all over the place kind of life of bipping and bopping all over the world, and
it's just been quite an adventure journey, really.
Yeah.
So
and so it's been I like to try to just go back into the most interesting earliest point. So I know one thing I know now is you're doing meteorology. Right? Yeah. Has that been your career?
It has been.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
since like 2000. So
okay.
Yeah. So 25 years, I guess it's been since I've been with the Weather Service doing this gig. So.
And how did that all begin? Like, were you always into the idea of?
No, not really.
Alone, or?
Just kind of a long progression of. I grew up in the UP of Michigan,
a
little place called Ishpeming, a little town of about 2,000 people, and you get a lot of snow in the UP. So, the
I'm
UP.
clapping for the area, by the way.
Yeah. So, Upers up there, I don't know if you spent any time over there, but they average around 250, 300 inches of snow a year. Yeah. So skiing and outdoor stuff, a small town, we were athletes. We were just out, we were skiing, running, we were doing everything outside, hunting, fishing. Everything was based on the weather. So I was just glued as a kid. I remember in the early 80s, finally cable came out and we had the Weather Channel. And I was just glued to it because I'm like, wow, I can watch the weather. I can see what it's going to be like tomorrow.
I used to get Powder Magazine and watch the Weather Channel to follow the snow. I don't know if you're...
Yeah, watching Powder Magazine. And then watching Bob Beatty, remember on TV, you'd watch like skiing. Yeah. And that just got me so hooked on it.
Miller.
Downhill, right. And then Ishpeming is the National Ski Hall of Fame. So all my neighbors, we grew up ski jumping as well. So we've got all the suicide hills were there. So we're doing all the, I didn't jump any of the big hills, but I grew up with just jumping the small hills. And my folks were like, before you break your neck, we'll just keep you off the suicide hill. So
we'll let you just weather stuff. So. You like weather, not ski hills?
Yeah, it was just kind of that whole weather thing. But and then it
weather
moved,
brings the snow.
Yeah, but it moved into I was 12 years old and I had a brother. It was an airline pilot. He's retired now. So I started flying, and then I had a lot of friends. My dad was older when he had me, but I started just flying these little bush planes when I was a little kid. So I learned how to fly when I was like 12, 13 years old.
Me too. I told you.
Yeah, but it was cheap back then.
Who was letting all these kids fly around?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, we couldn't fly by myself, but
that would be
if you have a bush pilot dad.
Yeah, right. And
that's why when I met Ronnie, he knew all about otters and beavers and cubs on floats. I'm like, whoa, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, for
sure. The UP of Michigan. Yeah. What do you do?
And then, of course, with flying, everything's it's weather based.
Oh, sure,
it's meteorology. Mm-hmm. So every day you're going to go fly. It's like, what's it going to be? Is it going to be windy? Is it going to be snowing? Are we going to have the visibility? So I'm just this young kid and I'm looking at the Weather Channel. And then we had the National Weather Service in Marquette. We had flight service stations back then. So you could go in, you could talk to a briefer. Oh. And I just thought it was so cool. This guy had maps and he was just telling me about the weather, what's going to happen next week. And I got all excited about it.
The briefer means someone you can refer to, like you'll come and ask questions. The briefer,
yeah. Like, you could just walk right up to this briefer guy,
like
and he would give you a briefing.
When you're taking off, it's like, what's the weather like? And they'll be like, it's going to be this.
Yeah, exactly.
When you had maps on your lap.
Oh, yeah. And that's a whole other story, taking trips back then, because aviation's completely changed now compared to
I can't imagine a briefer is still a position that's around.
No, I think there still is a flight service station.
I think he said reefer.
I noticed you thought that.
Briefer.
I was like, reefer? The reefer? Cool job. Like he refers you. I'm like, I don't know.
Wait, no, this is your brief right here. I'm pointing my phone.
Yeah, right.
Everything is on here. I can travel around the world with it. I've got on-demand weather, weight and balance. I can do everything on my phone now, it's just amazing. So
I just think, and I know with the phones in mind too, it's just to imagine then going back to not even that far in time, right? And then having to go ask a guy, something that you can just Google now. It's just, I don't know. It's funny.
Also, imagine going back in time. Tell them about how you had to triangulate a path to go anywhere you wanted to go and look for water towers, or like explain what it was like to fly from here to Texas.
So one of my first cross-country trips, I remember, and it's kind of funny thinking about it because I'm like 19 years old and I spent a stint in the Marine Corps and I was stationed out in California, and I had this little plane that I worked all summer, and you could buy a plane would be the price of a cheap.
What did you buy your first plane for?
It was $4,000. It was a Piper Colt.
That's crazy.
And it was, this was in 1987.
Sure,
so,
okay,
but then in 1990, I was stationed out in California, and I wanted to get the plane out there. And I'm thinking, well, it'd be really fun. I'll just fly the plane out there. It'll be really fun,
right? Yeah.
So my mom brought me down to the airport. I think I had
check the oil.
Yeah, I had flip flops on, and no cell phone. I just had a stack of maps, and I had a little bag with me. But I mean, I barely had anything.
Probably without a blanket or anything for survival when you crash.
And I pull the plane out, and she says, "Now,
flip flops."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you're not even supposed to drive your car with flip flops.
No, I totally had flip flops on. I'm ready to go. I'm all set. And the last thing, Mom, she looks at me and she says, "Now, give me a call when you get to California."
probably smart.
You have a bunch of maps for every state on your lap, looking for water towers.
Yeah, and this isn't a plane that's going fast. This thing's
like-
going 90 miles an
Yeah.
hour. So
Just like-
You're
but-
basically
but-
just
but-
driving there,
yeah,
but it's really high up.
and then you got to realize like you didn't have this. You didn't have the weather. You had the briefer guy, right?
Yeah.
And you could get to a frequency. You could get up to 3,000 feet, and maybe on 122.0 you could get what's called flight watch. So I'd be calling flight watch. I'm not getting anyone. I'm out in the middle of nowhere. But I've just got these maps. They're called WAC charts or sectionals, but the WACs are bigger, but they don't have a lot of detail on it. So I'm just plotting this course, and you're following this magnetic compass. So you've got obviously you got a lot of correction on there as well. So you're following this thing, and you get lost a lot. Yeah, there was a few times I
can so
looked
imagine.
down, and airports back then they would have their name of the city on the building.
Sure.
So I just remember going over, was it Liberal, Kansas or
Oh
something?
no, that town
And I'm
smells
thinking,
terrible.
yeah, you know what I'm talking
They have that big
about.
rendering
It's
plant there. It is so gross. I stayed there in a hotel because it was the cheapest. I found out why. That
Yeah.
town, even the inside of the hotel room smells like the outside. Sorry, anyone who lives there. You're used to it. I get it. When you live somewhere long enough, it's like you don't
Yeah.
smell your cats,
Right.
but everyone else does.
Yeah, mm.
You get used to it.
So back to that story, Liberal, Kansas, and I'm seeing this, and I'm looking down, and I'm like, I thought I was in Nebraska. So I'm like, I'm not even in the right state. So you land, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, and you got to reconfigure. And
Is that how you? Is that the best way to know you're lost? Is just seeing a specific landmark? of,
Yeah,
like-
that's all you would do.
Okay.
Yeah, you would
Yeah.
just. They call it dead reckoning. So when you're flying, you
Water
just-
towers with names.
water towers,
Right.
names. You're looking at airports with names, and
Big
bridges
lakes.
and-
In
Yeah.
Canada, it's all about the shapes of lakes.
Right.
You know,
What does
it's
that
all
look like?
pine trees, and then you're looking for whatever
Yeah.
long neck lake or it's like
Yeah.
or hockey stick lake or whatever,
Bridge
just like
or
anything that.
tower or
And-
something
and
like that. And you're looking
That's
at
how
it.
you're
it's like-
keeping track. Then
That's
too.
how you're confirming
Oh.
where you're going.
It's-
Or highways. So
Man.
finally,
highway.
I got just tired of this, and I'm like, I'm just going to make it to Interstate 40.
yeah,
And then I'm just going to fly the 40 all the way across. But the problem with that is when you're going west, you've got westerly winds, and it's very windy.
yeah.
So you're flying west, and I'm looking down, and I'm like, well, this plane like was 90 mile an hour. Speed limit on 40 is like 90 basically back then. So
And
so
your
here I
gas
am
is
flying,
2-3 times as
and
much.
I'm looking at cars and trucks, and they're just passing me up, going, and I'm like, I'm not saving anything.
You know what though? If you're lucky though, on the way back you get the tailwind
Yes,
because
right.
then you can.
Yeah, then you're doing 150
Yeah.
mile an hour. You're cruising.
Yeah.
You can't beat the view, I suppose.
It can be like a long way one way and a real fast way back, unless it turns.
Yeah.
That's where the weatherman comes
Right.
involved. It's like, when is it going to turn? How am I
And
going to
then
get the best gas mileage?
Everything is going good. So you've got it all set up.
Yeah.
You're flying the highway, and then you get to the mountains, and then you're running into weather. So I remember getting up to, I was trying to get over Winslow, and then there's like low clouds, and I'm up at 6,000 feet.
Winslow, Arizona.
Winslow,
On
Arizona,
I-40.
On I-40. So I got to Winslow, and I'm thinking, oh, I can make it. And then all of a sudden, the clouds in the ground
I
come
don't
together.
think of it as that abundance, but
So-
it is kind of up high elevation.
Yeah, it's getting up there. Maybe not 6,000, but probably 4,000. Just kind of
It's
the
like that
foothills.
western step just comes up and
It
you
just
kind of
starts
forget
coming
how
up.
high you are
Yeah.
because the peaks,
And
it,
no,
it
that
seems
was
low.
That was like my first experience with like mountain flying. So, and usually you go for training for that. No, not me. I'm heading on
I'll
out.
figure it out.
I got flip flops.
It's like you bought a scooter. You know, it's like you didn't even need a license. You know, like, well, you know, you did have a license.
Yeah.
But,
had a license, but didn't have a lot of time. I mean,
but they
was
gave them
flying
pretty
most,
easy
so-
back then, I think.
It wasn't too hard to get your
I
license.
don't think
back
so.
then.
Even when I was
16
doing it, it's like, really? This is all you got to do?
Yeah.
But then it was like, I don't think I want to pay attention to all these knobs.
Yeah.
You know, it's too many knobs, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't see all those knobs.
Ah.
Mm.
And kind of the problem with it is that a private license is a license to learn. So
Mm.
I think a lot of pilots, they figure, hey, I got my license. I'm good. I can go do
A
whatever.
license to learn.
It's a license to learn. So it's
Oh,
you're
look at
just
you. What a
starting
role
out.
model.
So, you know, you're like,
a license to learn.
it's a license to learn. You have to work on.
Mhm.
A
on all your
barista
skills.
is a
So,
license
It's a license to
I'm gonna
learn. You
use
got
that.
your license.
And then you can be able to quit on their first day. I don't want them talking to me like this.
So that trip just took a long time. It took me, I think it was about 5 days to get out
To
there.
get there?
Yeah, so I could have drove
What?
a lot faster.
Okay,
Well, I
let's
got
go
stuck.
through
I
it.
suppose
got
it's
stuck
not,
in
it's not like
weather.
you're
It was
just driving. You just like
yeah.
pull over, get some munchies, you'll pee.
Yeah, and it's not
You're
comfortable.
depressed.
You're sitting in this
Oh.
small little box, so it's like 3 hours is like
And,
max.
and you have
Yeah.
to have everything going. You got 2 feet on the rudder, so you got left
you're
and right.
tired.
You don't
Basically
get to
just
ever
pedaling.
take your feet off. They're your
Yeah.
everything, and then your yoke up and down, and then weather comes in, and now it's hailing and it's lightning, and now you can't see.
Well, and that's what happened in Flagstaff. I ended up being there, and it was like, okay, now it's monsoonal flow in Flagstaff, and every afternoon it's boom. There's just big thunderstorms and hail,
Yeah.
and yeah. In this plane,
Talk
thankfully-
about
What is that? Is that going up
Yeah.
and down?
Your
yeah, you
stomach
get all
gets
these
in your throat.
You get all
you know,
these
it's like-
thermals. You
yeah.
go up 1,000 feet,
Yeah.
you go down 1,000
like a
feet.
roller
You're like all
coaster.
over.
Wait,
So-
wait, is it you're literally just being like
Oh, yeah.
pushed up, pulled
big
down?
time.
Wow,
Big time. Yeah,
Like a
those
roller
thermals
coaster.
are just like
that's nuts.
that's why you see those big sailplanes that are out west, and I mean they'll just start getting in the thermals. They'll go to like 20,000 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, they just glide on up
Wow.
and soaring.
That's
Yeah, so the mountains get all that uplift.
Sure,
So
I suppose. What's like an ideal situation then at this? Because it sounds like you could pretty easily get into some rough waters. Well,
Well, he likes rougher waters. He's into like tundra tires now and short takeoffs and
yeah, it's just a whole different deal now. I don't fly across the country so much.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just a lot of local.
oh sure,
A lot of local flying where I'm flying
fun
bush tires
flying
and
and
stuff. It's just fun
adventures.
stuff. Yeah.
You went to Oshkosh.
Yeah, Oshkosh and just camping out, like going to Madeline Island and going down to Cumberland and just regional stuff. I'll go to Marquette and
I told him about my favorite place, and he's like, "I'll see if they have a reservation. I'll fly there." And I was
Yeah.
like, "What?"
yeah.
What did you do in the army or Marines? Did you say?
So
Marines?
I was infantry in
Infantry.
the Marine Corps.
Okay.
So Gulf War broke out. I was going to school in Florida at the time, and I think I went and saw a recruiter on Monday, and Wednesday I was at basic training at Paris Island, South
There you go.
Carolina.
Yeah,
And,
before you change your mind, let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get you over there. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh gosh, what did I do?
yeah, which is why they get you so quick. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And how long were you in then?
I was in 4 years.
4 years,
Yeah,
okay.
well,
Yeah,
4 years. So, but it was a lot of fun because I traveled like everywhere.
I
I was
suppose,
deployed everywhere. So
Uh-huh.
well, that got me into the whole travel bug and
I was
seeing
gonna ask,
different
okay.
places and stuff. So,
So you
yeah.
a lot of your
Yeah.
travels happen post-military then?
Kind
or-
of during the military too. I think I
Well-
counted up. I moved like 28 times since high school or something. Some
Whoa.
crazy number, but
Wow.
yeah. So like, even when I was in basic training in South Carolina, I went up to security forces training up in Norfolk, Virginia, and then I was in the Philippines in Subic Bay, and I was there for over 2 years. And then came back, and then I was sent off to Africa for a while, and came back, and then I was on a ship over in Japan, and
Oh, yeah.
I was up
awesome.
to Russia for a while, and
Yeah, really all over
came
then.
back,
Wow.
so I
Up
was
to
just-
Russia
yeah.
for a while.
yeah,
you
they
know.
would just send me on these ships and stuff, and they would just deploy you wherever. So, and if you wanted to travel, you would just be like, "Hey,
yeah,
send
yeah,
me."
Yeah, there's always stuff going on. I
Because a
suppose.
lot of because
Yeah,
a lot
some
of
people
Marines
didn't
want
want
to
to
go.
go. Scared.
They wanted to stay, stay in CONUS, which is continental United States, and I was like, "Hey, send me,
Well, right,
send
yeah.
me to go. I want to."
Were I someone who would have joined, I would have been one to,
Were
to
I-
stay home. But I'm not even that far, so
Right,
yeah.
you're saying
Yeah.
a lot of people
I'm extra
did.
Yeah.
staying home.
Yeah.
Extra staying home. Yeah, yeah. So when you had told me about doing this episode, you had kind of went through a list of all these different adventures that you had that came to mind, and so I'm curious if you have any of those that you had listed that
Oh,
you
there's
want to ask
endless.
about in particular.
Well, with Ron's amazing adventure-seeking skills, he obviously found mountain biking,
Yeah.
which also he combined with extreme mountain biking competition and camping,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But also you did that in other countries, and
Yeah.
also you've fallen off cliffs and had amazingly unbelievable injuries. And the way, if anyone will have to post a photo, but Ron looks like he's never even been kissed by any problem and never had a
Never been
stitch.
kissed by
You
any
know,
problem.
You know,
That
it's like
can't be
he's
true.
like
That
he
can't
just
be true.
glows like the brightest bulb, and you wouldn't know he's like spent months in a Mexican hospital being nursed back to health after falling off a cliff, or like some of these kind of stories.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm very interested now in the cliff falling story.
No,
if you don't mind. I mean,
Or maybe it's just a pile of rocks. But either way.
just a lot of wrecks and stuff. When you do bike packing and mountain bike racing, you just have a tendency to fall. And
I suppose.
and when you fall into rocks and stuff, you break ribs and
Oh.
break things, and
Yeah.
it just kind of goes with it. So, but
But you fell off more than just the Mexico one for sure. That was what, right?
yeah, was this the?
That was like you broke a lot of
Yeah.
like how many things?
Well, just
Just on my bones.
An undisclosed amount,
just
but
a lot of
more than
broken
you have.
stuff and sprained stuff and just messed up. But
So, but it doesn't seem to have deterred you at all.
well,
I mean-
and the thing is, when you get injured and you have one of these bad setbacks, and I just remember like having a broken femur, and this was from a different. I had a fractured femur and my hands were broken, and I'm thinking, how bad of a situation is this? And the only thing you can think about is this is going to get better.
Oh,
Yeah,
I suppose.
it
Yeah.
can't get much worse, right? You're just sitting there. I can't walk. I can't move my hands.
that's why you shouldn't watch some of those
Yeah.
shows, because then it does get worse. Then you slip off and fall down another ravine, and then you have to crawl out 3 days later after not eating, and dehydration sets in, and you're drinking your own pee, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It could get
Yeah,
worse.
touring as a band is
And
a
then
lot,
you can
isn't it?
finally get to the line where you see some help and they drive away.
that could
And then
be
you gotta
bad.
go one more day.
That could be bad.
It could be worse.
I think I called a buddy one time though. I was bike packing across New Mexico, and I ran out of food, and I ended up in the mountains up. What is it? Abiquiu. I don't know if you've been up in New Mexico.
In New Mexico?
Abiquiu, and you're going
By
up through
Chaco or something?
Platoro, Chaco.
Okay.
You know Chaco, where the train is and that. And I got stuck up in the snow up there after being in total heat, but it was just
In
big
terrible
snowstorm.
roads with boulders.
Yeah, it was horrible. Well, I just ran out of food.
Yeah.
So I had some water, and but I just didn't have any food. And I haven't food like 2 days. I recall my buddy and thinking, how long can I really go at this pace
Oh.
without any food? So he's like,
just,
you'll be
like,
okay.
literally,
Just keep going.
One
Just
to
drinking
4
water.
days.
Yeah.
And sometimes superhuman strength comes
Yeah.
in.
It's wait, how long in that trip? How long did you end up going then without eating?
Oh, I went a couple days. Yeah, it was over 2, almost 3 days.
Almost 3 days.
Yeah.
Oof.
But the funny thing is after 2 days, it kind of levels out, and you're like,
I would think that makes sense.
I think you're just you're cannibalizing all your muscles.
Oh, it's totally
Just
the
eating
case.
fat, right? You're just
Have
like,
you seen the documentary, The Sound of Insect?
No.
It's a dark one.
It sounds like
Guy
it.
Sound of
goes into the
Insects,
woods to just die of starvation and documents it.
Oh.
They found his journal and made a documentary out of it and recreated it. But
Oh,
it's
sure.
creepy, but it sticks with me. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like all those survival stories. It's like there's another book I read too. It's like all survival stuff. It's like what makes people kind of like sometimes survive and not survive. It's like
Right.
everyone's always intrigued by that. Is it just luck? Is it more? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Do you find yourself almost drawn to the danger of it all too, or is it almost just like is it just the adventure of it?
I think the adventure, and I think just the challenge with it
Yeah.
too. Yeah, just to go out there.
It
and,
is the adventure, and it's like, can I do it? And
you think of historically, you think of like Lewis and Clark or something
Sure,
going
sure.
across America, and they don't have anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, oh, this would be kind of fun, just
way before Gore-Tex.
just going, yeah, way before. Look what I've got. I've got all kinds of stuff here.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't have food for 2 days,
Yeah, but you had like rubber soles on your shoes or something,
Oh,
right?
man.
check it out.
Tina bought this book. I can't remember what it is, but she bought this collection of books, some very old, rare stuff, and she was reading from it last night, and it was like, what food do we need for 6 guys in the woods for a week?
Yeah.
And it was this old like list. It was like 5 pounds of bacon,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was like all this stuff, flour, baking
Yeah,
soda, or like immense amounts, like pounds of things. For 6 people for 7 days, I was like, man, the modern day is like, how about some Luna bars, a water filter, some high protein, lightweight, and maybe some Cheetos and maybe some Skittles.
And we'll go into town in the morning for
And
coffee.
and when we get out, we're gonna eat
You gotta have
cheeseburgers.
coffee.
You know,
Gotta have
Gotta
coffee.
have
I mean, yeah,
coffee.
that's why we're all here, right?
what do you bring when you're hiking? Do you bring coffee or no?
I usually don't bring coffee.
I bet you don't. You're a lightweight,
I
super
try
fanatic,
to
aren't
stay
you?
just
Yep.
pretty lightweight.
That makes sense.
But you got like a bivvy in these tents now. They're like a pound.
You don't even bring a
so
tent, do you? It's like
I
taco
bring,
it.
I bring it's
A
at least
one-person?
it's like a cowboy bivvy type thing.
Oh, two?
So right,
A cowboy. So you
Yeah.
fold it over.
just kind of
and
fold
you,
it over
like,
some cowboy
make sure
camping
the
type
fold
thing,
is going
so.
downhill.
Yeah, find kind of a tree and set it up. But I've got some lightweight tents too that I use, which are really comfy. And then some of the quilts. In fact, I let Tina use one of my quilts one time. And
he has these down quilts or artificial down?
They're like a pound.
Yeah,
you know?
but they're
like,
so super warm.
Super
This
warm.
lightweight
You just
camping. So he's
wrap
also
in
does.
there,
Tell him about the bike races. Like, did you do the Continental Divide or what was?
Yeah.
Like more than once.
Yep. Yeah, 3 times.
3 times.
Never
Do you
an
know
official.
about that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Explain that.
So the Great Divide Race is it runs from Banff, Canada, and it goes to Antelope Wells, Mexico. It's 2,700 miles, and it starts at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it's totally unsupported. You can start from the south, or you can start from the north.
It's 2,700 miles.
It's 2,700 miles, and it goes on dirt.
And does it go
It's
through
unsupported.
glacier, right?
It does.
Yeah,
Yep,
because I
it
was
does.
playing in what's the top of Glacier on the west side. It's like a little outpost town on 10 miles from Canada.
Yeah,
But
okay.
that trail goes right by it.
It goes right by it.
I used to always play at Northern Lights Saloon in whatever little town. I can't think. But there's a guy biking from Mexico on his way, and he stopped. He hung out and had a beer and had some food.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was on his way on this race.
And that's-
unsupported. So you stop
it's
at like
unsupported.
restaurants.
Yeah, you can stop at a restaurant. You can stop where any
But
other
you're just
competitors
biking and
can
racing
stay.
by yourself.
So
You bring your tent and you sleep.
yeah,
You could get a room if you want
you can get a room if you want.
Okay,
Yeah,
you can do
yeah,
whatever you want,
yeah.
but you just have to bike all the miles on your bike.
You just have to do it on your own power, and you can't get any help. So you can't like call in a friend and say, "Hey, can you bring me some stuff?"
Yeah.
You know,
No support
it
vehicle.
has to be how the other competitors, if they can access that, then
So it's just anything
it's-
on
it's
the
equal.
path.
You
That's
can't
right.
have a
Okay.
friend
That's
sneak
right.
you a gallon of water.
nope.
You can't
No.
get a
Yeah.
nice bottle of brandy.
But there's trail magic, so we call it trail magic. And
Trail magic
and
is the thing.
hey, some guy out in the middle of the desert, this like, oh, is this an oasis? This guy has. I remember this cowboy coming up, and he's like, I got a beer and I got a lot of water. So you're like,
Great.
okay, I guess I'm gonna live today. So
I got some trail magic.
Wow.
little trail magic on the deal.
We
So,
sell
yeah.
a THC drink upstairs called Trail Magic.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it's like a
nice.
5 milligram Arnie Palmer thing.
I
And
was
it's
thinking, like,
like,
I knew I'd
Yeah.
seen that as a brand. I couldn't remember what it was.
I
Yeah.
think that's funny they grabbed that Trail Magic.
That's great.
And I suppose if you're somebody who's doing a big, wait, is it a race? Is that? Or is
It is a race. I mean, you
Did
sign up
did
for.
you
I
finish it?
I signed up for the race. Well, that's the story. So I started 3 times and I never finished.
Oh,
Because it's
Oh, interesting.
2,700 miles.
Yeah, well, I
So
had
only-
just some things that happened.
sure.
But
But,
I mean,
yeah.
Were they all
So-
injuries or just life?
Yeah, kind
or-
of injuries. One time the first time I went through, I ran into a blizzard. It was in the and I couldn't get past this pass. So it's kind of like if
Like
you don't.
serious blizzard.
Yeah, it was, and there was no way
Like how
at the
much
time.
snow were you biking in
Oh,
before
it
you
was-
turned around?
It was like shoulder deep. You know, it was
And
like
you were
there's
still
no way.
biking?
Yeah, and it was like I was gonna have to
But
wait.
then
a
you had to
week
bike out?
go. Yeah.
So you biked up to your shoulders and turned around?
Well, I just got up into it, and I'm like, I can't get through it, so I kind of went down, and I tried it again. But then I was like,
tried
I just
again.
ran out of time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm gonna have to wait another week to get through this. So that happened.
We are just different people. I
Yeah,
just-
yeah, yeah. And then the second time was good. It was great. I actually made it over that pass, and I'm cruising along, and I ended up breaking my hand.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wait,
So
how-
in Colorado. So
how
it
was
was
that?
just So I'm like biking on one arm, and I'm thinking, oh wow, this isn't.
how do you break your hand biking? Did you fall off? Is that?
Well, it's all dirt, so you're coming down these mountains, and I don't know if you know, like
I-
you ever come down a mountain? They've got these water
No.
I'm
bars.
so scared of
Have you ever seen those water bars? And then there's like a 5-foot drop on the backside of it,
Okay.
and it was like nighttime, so I'm
Oh,
coming
Oh,
down.
yeah,
of
because
course-
the water comes rushing
Yeah.
down. It's like a gully.
Yeah, so
I'd be
these
like,
trails are
yeah.
going down these water
And they get
bars.
washed out.
Yeah.
It's like skiing at Mount Bohemia.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
like
So I'm riding my bike down, and it's nighttime. I'm trying to make time, and because you're biking from sun up to sundown, you're just biking all
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
So, and I hit one of these water ballers, and I just ate it. I
Oh.
just took a bad wipe.
Yeah,
out and-
yeah.
yeah.
See, I guess
so,
in my head,
yeah.
I'm just like biking on a trail because that's all it's all my whole frame of reference is just.
you have photos of this?
I do. Yeah.
You should send us some of the favorite pics
Yeah.
from your craziest adventures,
Yeah.
and
I'll have to
if
send
that
some.
you wouldn't mind posting, we'll add them to the podcast
Perfect.
post.
What do you
Yeah.
think is your favorite place you've
Yeah.
gone biking?
Favorite place.
Because I have this,
Boy,
I have a
it's-
vision in my
it's
head of like a
always hard.
Forrest Gump kind of running around and like you see these vistas and stuff.
You know, there's so many places, and it's just so situational where you get to them and you're like, oh my gosh, like the Platoro Valley.
Where's
in
that?
Colorado. It's the southern Colorado there, the
By
Platoro
where?
Valley.
What town?
It would be well north of Silver City.
Silver City.
It's
That's
south of Salida.
Oh, south of Salida on the
Yeah.
way to Taos.
Yeah, south of Salida.
I love Salida.
And that Platoro Valley is just beautiful.
Is
I've
that
got
on
photos there,
285
and it's
then,
just
or
like,
where,
woo.
where do you get off? How do you
Ah.
get there?
Is it Amargosa? Would be off to the east, so it's be directly west of there.
Okay.
Amargosa Springs.
The other
I think
way.
it is, so yeah,
All right.
but it's a beautiful valley.
Pagosa Springs. I used to play there.
Pagosa Springs
That's a
goes
nice
there.
spot.
Yeah.
Del Norte.
I spent a night in Del Norte. So, yeah. Or I would say Del Norte.
Del Norte. Del Norte.
One of the funny things about this podcast is every guest they'll talk about some very obscure place somewhere in the middle of the mountain somewhere, and Jason's like, "Oh yeah, I played there."
I was there. He was in Del Norte.
I played there too, actually.
Yeah.
In a weird guy made furniture.
Yeah.
And then he had house concerts in his homemade furniture showroom, and he'd
Cool.
like move things around and have house concerts. And it's a beautiful town. I love the haciendas, like those little houses, and you rent a little place, and I don't know. The desert is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love New Mexico.
And they all got swamp
southern-
coolers. Remember the swamp coolers?
I don't like swamp coolers. It's too humid.
You remember that?
Yeah.
All the homes got these
And there's no water.
swamp coolers.
You know,
going.
wasting water.
So you walk in the house and it's like, whoa, oh. It's
They
kinda
run
a
like
wet summer.
water.
It's like hay, and they run it through hay, and it's just it's a cheap air
They
conditioning.
Oh,
run
okay.
water,
They have it-
and then they blow air through it, and it
Yeah.
but it so mists you with water, but it also makes it super
Yeah.
humid.
It really does.
Oh,
Mm.
Yeah.
so
Not a
yeah,
fan.
No.
I don't
You know,
like
back to
humidity.
the beautiful places.
Mhm.
You know, overseas. Yeah,
Oh, see, this was
definitely
one
like
too. Yep.
like Okinawa and in Japan. Like
Mhm.
some of those areas, you're
Have you
riding
skied
around
Mount
and stuff,
Fuji?
so I haven't.
Oh,
No.
I thought you were gonna say yes.
No.
Have you?
No, but my friend
I
did.
haven't.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys should plan a trip.
I know.
I'm not. I'm a hobo skier. I'm
Oh.
like when someone works somewhere, I'm playing there, and like you get free lift tickets. I'm like, can I get rentals? Cool.
That's
I bring my boots.
So Woodblind needs to play Japan.
We're big in Japan.
It looks like some great skiing over there.
It does actually.
Yeah,
Hansi
I would love it
Johnson.
over there.
We should get him on the podcast.
Oh,
He
dude,
is
yeah.
Do you know Hansi?
I do.
Hansi is also an amazing mountain biker, amazing like trout fisherman,
Yeah.
backcountry,
Yes.
everything. I mean, his little kid at 4 years old is doing backflips at Spirit Mountain. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Wonderful adventure spirit.
yeah,
Oh,
same
he's-
kind of vibe.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
loves doing that
he helped
stuff,
us
so.
with and film, and he's a film guy.
Oh, that's
I met him
right.
with
Oh,
cooking
yeah.
on the car because
Finally
he was
something I can
helping us
relate to.
with. He went to film school, so he's
Yeah.
you would love
Now I
him.
can finally
Hansi
understand.
Johnson, let's put him on the
Okay,
list.
Yeah. Yeah.
We definitely got to get him in
He
here.
would. I met him when just started fat biking. Fat
Yeah.
biking got really big in Duluth, and there was probably like 10, 15 of us. We all knew each other, but Hansi would always come out and we'd ride on the ice, and he would get these great photos of us
Yeah.
coming down the trails, and we'd groom the trails, and
Have you seen
Just
his
kind of the bird
photos
stuff,
of
so-
like the first ice before any snow, you know,
yeah,
and they go skating?
he's just got.
Have
an
you seen
eye.
his
It's
photos?
just
Do you know who I'm talking about at all?
Not even a
I'll
little.
have to tune you into
Yeah.
Hansi Johnson. He is a talent. He's a
Super
sweetheart too. He doesn't
Super
live
guy.
far too.
I feel like a lot of the people we talk to, and I think even you and I, Jason, we're people who get bored easily,
right.
and I just think it's interesting how people feel that kind of that boredom. So, some
whole
people will make
boredom
music,
deal.
they'll draw, they'll paint. Some people will go mountain biking for 3,000 miles, and I just think
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think I don't know what else to say beyond that, but I just think it's interesting.
I also wonder that same question.
yeah. I
I was like imagining even what that feeling used to feel like. I don't think I've had it so few times.
What feeling?
Boredom.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
my
like-
mom used to always say, "It's like only boring people get bored."
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Because otherwise, there's
You
just
know,
too much to
Like,
do.
I just don't
otherwise.
know
Yeah.
boring
so
people
much to
really.
do.
It's like life's too short and
It's-
fast. It's like if you want to be boring, I guess it's like.
Yeah,
but if you're not looking around,
Yeah.
anywhere you're at, is there any place? Tell me about your worst day when you were so broken down and something amazing that happened the next day.
Well, I remember one time I remember I couldn't even get up. My hands didn't work, and it was like 2 days, not even 2-3 days later. I remember coming off the couch, and I could get the food that my roommate left that was on the counter.
Because of
And I
a
went
crash or what happened?
Yeah, it was just a bad. Yeah, I was in a bad wreck, and it just was all broken up.
Yeah.
But I remember that whole thing was like, wow, I'm getting better. And I'm thinking, this is fantastic.
I suppose.
Yeah, like anytime you're
This
so
is-
broken down, it's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Right.
that's working today.
Look at this is it. This is it.
I'm on my way.
Yeah. But getting back to boredom on that, the first weather job I took. So I went to school out in Prescott, Arizona. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to Prescott, Arizona.
there we
and
go.
I studied aviation and meteorology. And I was going to get a job flying, but at the time, and this was like 1999, had a really bad wreck. I was all busted up. So I didn't go the flying route. There wasn't a lot of flying jobs. They weren't paying very well.
There's no
And-
crop dusting and
no,
Prescott.
it was just, it was just kind of bleak with that. And I was just like, do I really want to be a bus driver, fly in? Yeah, I don't know. So, but I always did this weather thing, and I was studying meteorology as well.
this weather thing.
This weather thing. Yeah. So, and I
We
ended
haven't
up,
even talked about what he really
Right,
does
what
on
I
the
did.
weather yet.
Yeah.
That's funny. We better end with that before we forget.
so it was like the summer '98, and I was a summer hire at the Weather Service in Marquette. So that was kind of my foot in.
Okay.
So I worked this summer, and weather back then, it's different now. Meteorologists, how they work, and we did a lot of data collection.
Did you have
and-
green screen though?
No, not at us. We didn't have a green screen. We had a tape room though. We used to have to do recordings for no weather radio.
Are you?
So it's like my job.
Do you do or have you done like TV weatherman?
No, I've never been.
I
on
didn't
TV
think so.
But
radio.
he has a secret
Radio.
hope to
Yeah.
get to do it once in a while just for fun. So,
I mean-
pass that along to all our weather friends out there in TV land. When you want a day off, and if Ron's in town, he
You're
could,
like a substitute weatherman.
he could be a substitute.
I was.
He wants to.
Mom told me. She says you got a face for radio. So yeah, she said.
But he's
That's
glowing. You
awesome.
got to see him. Yeah, it's Ron.
So back with that, so I ended up finishing up school, and the first job I had was it was in Cold Bay, Alaska.
Mm.
Was it really cold?
Well, it wasn't really that cold, but it was out in the middle of nowhere. It's this island out in the middle of the Aleutian Islands, end of the Alaska Peninsula, and there's like nobody there.
Oh,
It's
mentally
surrounded.
cold.
Yeah, it's surrounded by volcanoes.
Oh,
Well,
that's
it's
cool.
kind of warm.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a roller coaster.
I mean, you get ash once in a while, but it's overcast like every day,
Oh,
and it's
God,
like
that sounds
50
not good.
degrees.
interesting.
Yeah, so
And
there's
wet,
like 40 people.
humid.
Oh yeah, it's cloudy, windy, and
And
rainy.
sea breeze.
That was my forecast. Was
You-
cloudy, windy,
everything
rainy
rusts.
for the rest of your life. That's what I would
Oh,
tell them.
no.
You know, I gotta tell you,
like that. So
That sounds
much.
perfect.
Have you seen the movie The Lighthouse?
Yeah,
No, yeah.
You shouldn't
I-
watch
I
that
should-
documentary. That's
I should
creepy.
watch- I should
But
watch
it
it.
reminds me of that.
yeah. So the whole boredom factor that we're talking about is that we would get people in like after like a month, they would just lose their mind.
Oh,
Like they would just
Like The
what am I
Lighthouse.
doing
Oh,
here?
yeah.
I'm out and there's no theater, there's no place to go for dinner. The only place you could spend money is at the post office. So
You
you're
can make your own wine if you remember to bring yeast and fruit.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Otherwise, shoot.
Yeah, so you just live subsistence really. So you're shooting caribou and you
Yeah.
had all the salmon
This
and
is like
you had
corn.
yeah.
Oh,
so you would
yeah.
just
Corn lived on the island of Gamble.
gamble.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Is
So
that
kinda same
nearby?
thing. No, it's up north. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I've been thinking about
kinda
this
the same
entire
thing.
episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you two should just chat.
Yeah. But the thing is, I loved it. Like I
Oh.
spent 7 years there.
Wow. Yeah. So
And
wait, so you
I
said other people
loved
were
it.
going and leaving in like months?
Yeah, well, you had to stay a year, or you had to pay yourself to get out of there. But I don't know how many people we had that they didn't make it that full year. And then
Oh.
like 6 months, they were like, I'm out of here.
And
I'm
you're
out
good
of there.
for- wow,
But you're like,
yeah.
I broke my hand. I'm going to keep mountain biking.
No,
You're like, I can do this.
It was
Used
just
to
a
be
different
worse.
lifestyle, and time just really went by because it was just seasonal, and
Sure,
you're like,
sure.
it was great, and the government gave you a home to live in, and yeah, it was just fun work.
So
you-
Just all
yeah.
hands
you-
on, so yeah,
You ate, what was your average meal?
caribou or halibut,
And how would you
or
cook
any
it?
type. So
I love halibut, of
I'd-
course.
I had an oven, so I'd always
Yeah.
halibut all kinds different ways. Yeah,
Halibut,
Yeah,
you
you'd
don't want to
bake it.
overcook.
no, super rare.
Yeah.
I learned how to cook even like the small cackling geese, really rare.
Mm.
And I would just marinate them, and I learned how to cook all
Crispy
those.
on the top.
Yeah, real
Skin
nice.
on, pluck them.
I wouldn't even pluck them. I would just
wouldn't?
breast them because you get so many.
You get
right?
so many. They're so little, though, I suppose.
Yeah, like you. No, it would be different. I mean, you're an artist, but
Not true.
I'm not an artist. No, Jason's an artist.
You like cooking a lot. I'm assuming a little more than you do.
He's an amazing cook.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I come here so often.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's why there's a restaurant here now. Yeah.
I'm a subsistence eater, so it's like throw it on the table and
Yeah.
start putting it and eating it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love good food, but I wish I would spend more time. I'm a lazy cook.
I understand that.
I
yeah.
can understand not wanting to pluck little birds.
Yeah, that's a lot of work. I mean, you'd be doing that.
Might
I
give
can
you
see
time to
that.
think about shooting that little bird. Oh,
I'm so sorry.
I don't
didn't-
even want to eat you now, and that would even be worse.
Yeah.
No, you're just.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. A caribou is very good.
It's
I've-
not good when
I've
your
had a-
dad shoots one and lets it sit in the sun, and you
That
have to
is
eat
not
it for a
good.
year.
That doesn't sound very good. I can imagine if you do it properly.
But the
Oh,
meat,
man.
after eating that for like 7 years, and I
It
started
was
eating
very
steak,
lean, though.
super lean.
You
but I
really
could eat
like
it.
it?
I liked it.
Mm.
It's not gamey. It's
You don't think it's gamey?
I think after you eat it for a while, after a couple of years, you just
I'd
get
rather eat
used to
kangaroo,
it. You're
I
like,
suppose.
oh, this is great. And I would get
This
some.
is what it is.
I could order some food from Seattle, and they'd bring it on a barge.
Oh,
and it would take like 3 weeks to get there. So obviously, you couldn't get any bananas or anything because they would be all messed
You could
up.
make banana bread.
You could make some. That's a good idea. I didn't do that either.
Oh,
So you could get some potatoes and stuff. You could
Sure.
you could get some of those staples that you could
Yeah.
add to your diet that you're making in Cold Bay.
Rice.
But,
So
yeah, rice, whatever you'd be. Yeah,
I would
could look
definitely put a few
Yeah.
tins of anchovies because
good. Oh yeah.
even though there's a lot of fish up there, that's kind of a fun salty treat.
Oh, for sure.
okay.
If you got some pasta and some anchovies, it's like
You get
yeah.
all kinds of flavor.
So,
I mean,
you don't
yeah.
even need oil; it comes in the can.
Uh,
An onion, some anchovies, anything that goes with it.
It's
you gotta
kind of how
start.
the Aleuts would cook, though.
Yeah.
Everything that they had was, they would say it had flavor. So, and they
Fat.
love stuff with that fat. And
Fat.
the flavor, and that's what they'd go for. If I shot a fish duck, which we didn't eat them, but the fish ducks had a lot of flavor to them. So
fish ducks.
yeah, the fish duck, like a merganser. Like if you shot a merganser, you brought them over the Aleuts.
They are
and they just
fishy.
yeah, they would cook those
No
up.
one eats those. Wow.
they'd go wild over them.
I love that, though.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
that makes sense. So it's like the really big fish eggs. You know, it's like
Yeah,
I
they
can
like
eat
that
some
stuff.
caviar,
It's
but
good.
that thing's like. It's like eating a marble, or it's like the gobstopper gone wrong.
Boom, it's got flavor.
Yeah, too much. Oh, I can't get rid of it.
Like, what is
I
this?
think it's expired.
Yeah. And then some
Did
of the
you
stuff
ever
they
eat
put-
what? So you were in the Philippines. You never ate one of those eggs that were fermented, did
Yeah,
you?
balut. Yeah,
You know
I ate
balut?
that, so it's
Explain
good.
that one.
So
That's a weird
They
food.
take an egg and it's just getting ready to hatch, right?
Oh.
So it's all set.
It's like a
And-
baby chicken.
Like a
So it's
fertilized egg?
Fertilized
it's like
egg.
it's an abortionated chicken egg is what it
Wow.
is.
It's like ready to
Like,
go,
It's ready to go,
Uh-huh.
and then they boil it. And that thing's got the little chicken there.
Yeah.
and then they ferment it.
Yeah. And then it sits, and then you crack that open, and then there's all that liquid in it. And the soup is really good. It's like a wonderful chicken soup. But they love to eat
Yeah,
the balut, the embryo
Yeah.
that's formed. So
Yeah.
like crack the top off and
we
do it like
definitely
a
ate
shot.
a few, but
But you
what's
kept
that
it
word?
down.
You have it in your mouth. That the what's the consistency or that is.
I don't know what the is it
there's
little
nothing-
bones? Is
yeah,
it
there's
like,
little bones, but
Yeah.
you can chew them up, and
but you have to
can,
chew them. You can't just shoot it, right?
Like,
you don't want to shoot a
no.
gazoo. What's it called?
Yeah.
Gazoot.
What's it called?
Balut,
Balut. Shoot a balut. Do you want
Oh, I
to shoot a
thought of it,
balut?
But there's
gross.
nothing that has that flavor that I've ever
I
had.
can't imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And I love
Everyone who's
eggs.
ever told me the story
I
of this
love eggs.
thing, I do love eggs, and I have cracked eggs with little baby chickens in them.
I mean, is it
Yeah.
But it's like I've always been like, oh God, what happened?
Yeah.
is it like chicken or eggs at all, or is it really just like its own thing?
It's its own thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Interesting.
doesn't resemble the egg, and it really doesn't resemble the chicken. So
It is giving
I
me a
think
little
you'll have to
upset
do it.
stomach. That's like I
might
can
have to-
almost eat anything. This is like one of the things that I'm like, I can't believe
This-
it. I've never. That's why
Yeah.
I'm curious. I would do it. I would do it though.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I would.
I would
try
do anything and
once.
everything once.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah. They just eat everything. It's kind of like the cows or the pig ear that they have, and they chop that up and call it sisig, and
Oh.
and they serve that. And you're
But is
eating
it crispy and fried
super
or
crispy.
marinade or?
It's got garlic.
I bet
and
it's
everything.
delicious.
And it's
That's-
so good.
Oh, it's.
Beer,
But I mean,
like-
that makes sense.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, chicken feet and.
you're there,
yeah.
and somebody comes off the boat. They're fresh there in the Philippines,
Yeah.
and they're like, "What are we eating?" You're eating pigs here, and they're like, "Oh no!"
I'm not
okay.
that grossed out by that for some reason.
I mean,
it's good.
I think I wouldn't.
It's good.
I mean, I feel bad for the pig.
I think I wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily want to know, but I don't know. I guess I don't know if unless I was sitting there how I'd feel totally. That does.
Yeah.
It's a little disturbing sounding.
I do like the idea if you're gonna
crunchy.
eat the pig,
Yeah, oh, there you
eat
go.
all the pig. I like that part.
The lechon,
I mean,
they
they-
love
yeah.
doing that. They take the whole.
I know.
and they-
Everyone.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I can get
most of the world.
Yeah.
Well, we do too. We just call them hot dogs.
Yeah, as my mom always said, they're made of lips and assholes.
If you're lucky.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Don't know what's in there.
I take lips and
A lot of
assholes
stuff.
over other things.
That's great.
I mean, look at like pig sphincters have been sold as calamari. I mean,
Oh boy.
Right.
maybe not the sphincter, but something
hope
like that.
Yeah.
No, you look up the lawsuits. No,
I don't want to.
You don't have to.
You don't want to know what's in there.
I
So
just- I'll
you
just-
don't eat a lot of
ignorance
calamari.
is
I don't
bliss.
think you're a calamari eater.
I don't have a ton of it. I mean, I feel like, but I've had enough where I hope it hasn't been whatever. I hope it's been calamari.
It's okay though.
Yeah.
You didn't die,
You're
and
right,
you're
you know?
and you're eating
telling
all
a
the
story
pig.
about it.
You are adventurous.
I may have eaten something, probably not, but I live to tell the tale.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So yeah, no, exactly. That's why people are always telling me how adventurous I am.
It's good to have an open palate.
I'm loving this one, by
This
the
is
way.
good.
I'm loving this podcast. Thanks for coming, Ron.
I do have, I
Thanks
think, one last question. That's not really like a final question, but I'm just curious. After all your travels and adventures, how did you end up here, and how long have you been here, and like
Yeah.
why
So
stay here? And
yeah. So
2008.
yeah. So 2007, I was in Cold Bay, and then I spent some time in Prince William Sound in Valdez, which is like really great place.
Valdez?
Valdez, Alaska.
It's
So
crazy.
I was there, but I had like 2 years of backcountry skiing there, which was just amazing because you'd go up and you'd skin up. You'd put these climbing skins on your skis and climb right up, and then you would ski down in the powder, and the powder was just fantastic. It was deep and just fun to ski on.
Yeah.
So, and I really wanted to stay there. And this was 2008. My mom came down with cancer, being in the UP, and then this job came available. And with this job, I didn't have to work shift work, which was really nice.
there you
Which was
go.
nice. And then mom was like, well, mom had cancer at the time, so I was figuring, well, I'm gonna bid on Duluth, Minnesota. See how it goes.
and-
So
I guess
ended
yeah,
up here
2008. So it's been a
2008,
minute.
so-
Do you and you said
Yeah.
you don't regret it? I'm guessing.
no, I mean I like it here. So
Yeah.
yeah, and the
But-
position was good too. So just with work and good
So-
place to work.
And
So.
have you felt the call to go elsewhere, or is just traveling?
No, I don't think I'll
He
stay
goes
till
everywhere.
retirement. So
I mean-
yeah, I'll just stay till retirement here.
Oh, that's-
yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
I'd
Which
offer
is
to go
like
to
in
Alaska.
4 years.
It's coming up pretty quick,
Well,
but yeah,
He's going to
yeah,
retire so
Yeah.
friggin' early.
Yeah, I'll see.
Well,
You never know.
I
I
mean-
mean, I'm always funny because I'll say, "Oh, I'm going to do this then," and then a year my plans change.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. We'll
I hate
see.
to always make like, "Oh yeah, I'm going to do that in 4 years."
Yeah.
Well, who knows where?
Yeah,
I'm
who
gonna be
knows? Yeah,
doing
nobody
it.
knows.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
don't
kind
mean
of
to put you on the
yeah.
spot. No way.
No, but it's kind
Well,
of
because
the
even then,
plan, so,
I would wonder. I mean, you'll find you retire from your job, but then what are you doing then?
right
Because
yeah.
we're bored, right? As we talked
He's
about.
not going to be bored.
No, I don't
Well,
think so.
Well, no, you're not,
I
you
hope
wouldn't be
not.
bored because of
Every
whatever.
time he just like disappears, it's like, name the last 5 little weird trips you just did. I mean, it's like,
Right.
like when his days off is like, I'm gonna go bike across this, or I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like you're
I think
adventurous.
we just do stuff to fill the days.
Yeah. Well,
Just
yeah.
try to
yeah.
figure out like, hey, how are we gonna have fun doing this? And
Yeah.
I get up on a Saturday or something. It's like I got the day off. Oh, what can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna drive to.
Put the bike in the plane or something. Or go to Madeline, and I like doing that
He
quite a
does
bit.
it pretty
Like,
cool.
I just go-
I remember one day I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I think I'm gonna drive to. Where did you go? Like Missouri or something? I think I'm gonna go to the Ozarks and go mountain biking. I'm like, wow, cool.
Oh yeah, that was a few years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, I
I was
was
like,
like down to.
Jesus. Okay,
I
cool.
did that.
It's like I got a couple
Fun.
days off. I think I'm gonna go bike the Ozarks. I'm like, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's living
I don't do
life.
laundry
Do
either.
it, so.
Well, yeah, chores.
I'm sorry if you have to work with me or be
It comes
served
at a
by me.
cost. So I've stayed single through all this. So it's
Oh.
So there's a little bit more flexibility. I
suppose,
think that,
yeah.
yeah. So a little bit more flexibility.
Sure,
I think,
sure.
with
But
that,
yeah,
so,
but I think that
yeah.
sounds.
I really hope we don't find a bunch of dead bodies in a basement someday.
What, his dead body?
Yeah. Like I used to have a wife. I used to have kids, but now I'm flexible.
Did you know that guy was up there?
I thought he was a
What
nice
was
meteorologist.
He was moving around a lot.
I would have never guessed. He seemed so kind. He was glowing.
So happy.
Well, yeah. after accusing our guest of murder,
No.
first for our show.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Oh,
It's been a
gosh.
lovely conversation. I've
Thanks
really
for
enjoyed
having
getting to
me
know
on,
you and
so.
all the adventures you've been on.
Great.
Any other questions from you, Jason? Any other questions, comments, concerns? Anything you want to bring up or mention?
I
or-
appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for having me by.
Normally
It's
when we have
great.
artists, they have stuff to pitch, but I suppose
Right.
you're
Yeah.
just,
No,
like,
I don't have anything to
doing
pitch.
the weather.
So, yeah. National Weather Service, just working there.
Oh yeah. So tune in next month for
So
more.
maybe you'll
adventure.
never hear from Ron again because he's.
He'll be off flying around. Yeah.
Bring him some trail magic.
Trail
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
Need that on the next trip. That's good. I gotta look that up.